devastating scandal involving DMV workers on Long Island. Authorities say that one of the employees even wore a disguise, posing as a truck driver, taking the test for them.
America, we need to talk about a story that perfectly shows you how deep the corruption goes in our government system. A woman just got busted for wearing fake beards and mustaches to take commercial driver's license tests for people who never even showed up. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about one fraud scheme in Long Island. This is about a nationwide crisis where unqualified drivers are getting licenses to operate 80,000-pound trucks on the roads where families drive.
Prosecutors say a whistleblower who works here noticed something wasn't right, and that led to a widespread investigation. Look at each person facing the camera in each of these images. They are all the same person, according to prosecutors, who say the woman who posed as all of these different men and women.
What is up, guys? Tyson De La Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story is going to blow your mind because it shows you exactly how people look at our licensing system and said, this is a joke. And they're right until Trump decided to do something about it. Let me introduce you to Jamie Middleton, the woman at the center of this absolutely wild fraud scheme. This 34-year-old from Queens was getting paid $3,000 a test to impersonate commercial driver's license applicants at the Garden City DMV in Long Island.
Prosecutors say they helped applicants skip the required test, and one woman even wore disguises to impersonate test takers.
But here's where it gets absolutely ridiculous. This woman was showing up wearing fake facial hair, sunglasses, and surgical masks, pretending to be men who were applying for commercial driver's permits. And get this, she forgot to take off her acrylic nails.
She's in disguise, coming in different clothing, even going so far as to wearing fake mustache.
The prosecutor literally said the fingernails gave it away. Come on. You're going to wear facial masks and fake beard. Take off your nails. If you're going to run a criminal enterprise to put unqualified truck drivers on our roads, at least pay attention to the details here. But here's what makes this even more insane. Jamie's sister, Kanita, was a DMV supervisor. A supervisor. Someone who was supposed to be making sure the system works properly and was running the scam from inside all along with 3 other DMV employees.
According to prosecutors, who say the woman who posed as all of these different men and women did it for dangerous reasons.
Think about this business model for a second. People were willing to pay $3,000 rather than just study and take the test legitimately. What does this tell you about their confidence and actually being able to pass the test? And what does this tell you about the kind of drivers we're putting behind these massive trucks? Now, some people might say, hey, it's just a written test. What's the big deal? Let me tell you what the big deal is. 3 drivers actually got their commercial permits through this scheme. 3 people who never took the test, never proved that they could safely operate a commercial vehicle, got a license to drive trucks on public roads.
James Nurse, who ended up working here at the Town of Hempstead Recycling Center, where he spent over a year and a half driving a truck.
James was one of the people who got licensed through this fraud. He was driving a massive recycling truck through neighborhoods for over a year and a half. A government employee licensed only through lies, driving an 80,000-pound vehicle through streets where children play. As the prosecutor put it, a government employee licensed only through lies. And this wasn't some sophisticated operation. Jamie Middleton would literally come out of one test and go back to the counter and take another test 5 minutes later as a completely different person. The DMV workers would have photos of real applicants on their computers, but they let this woman with fake facial hair and beards and acrylic nails take the test instead. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. The Long Island scheme isn't isolated. This is happening across the country, and it's been going on for years. 3 months ago in Washington State, investigators uncovered another massive CDL fraud scheme. A CDL school in Auburn was literally mailing gold envelopes full of cash to third-party testers to ensure their students passed exams.
The State Department of Licensing says those gold envelopes full of cash are evidence believed to be bribes paid to a third-party tester.
Think about this for a second. They found multiple gold envelopes with birth dates written on them, and investigators could tie those birth dates directly to driver's license numbers. This wasn't casual corruption. This was an organized system of fraud.
They retested 74 drivers and 80% failed. At least 110 drivers ended ended up having their credentials canceled.
80%. That means 8 out of 10 people who were driving commercial licenses on our roads were never qualified to do so in the first place. As one investigator put it, these are 80,000-pound metal projectiles going down the freeway, and we're letting unqualified people drive them because corrupt officials were more interested in making money than protecting public safety. So what happened when the Trump administration found out about this massive fraud? They did what the previous administration should have done years ago. They shut it down.
Right now, there's a temporary pause on issuing and renewing limited-term commercial driver's licenses across the country.
The Trump administration implemented an emergency action requiring states to audit their licensing system. No more limited-term CDLs until states can prove that their systems aren't compromised by fraud. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy didn't slice up any words here. CDLs were given to dangerous foreign drivers who represent a direct threat to the safety of every family on the road. Of course, the usual suspects are crying about this. Immigration lawyers are calling it an attack on all immigrants. But let me ask you something. Is it an attack on immigrants to require that people actually pass the tests required to operate massive vehicles on public roads?
Immigration lawyer Carlos Trejo believes the order is an attack on all immigrants, both illegal and legal.
This isn't about immigration status. This is about public safety. When you have schemes like the one in Long Island, when you have schools mailing cash bribes to testers, when you have 80% of drivers fail when they're actually tested properly, you have a system that's completely broken. Now, I want to be clear about something. There are legitimate DACA recipients and legal immigrants who got their CDLs through proper channels and are now caught up in the audit process, and that's unfortunate, but it's not Trump's fault. It's the fault of the corrupt officials who created this mess in the first place.
George Rivera owns a trucking business. For 11 years, he's spent his days driving across the West.
George Rivera, DACA recipient featured on a news story, has been driving trucks for 11 years and owns his own business. He pays taxes, follows the rules, and built his own American dream. People like him shouldn't be punished for the corruption of others. But here's the reality. When you have systematic fraud in licensing systems, when you have people getting CDLs through fake beards and cash bribes, everyone gets caught up in the cleanup. That's what happens when government systems become so corrupt that they can't be trusted. The audit process will separate legitimate drivers from the fraudulent ones. It's going to be somewhat inconvenient. It's going to be somewhat disruptive, but it's absolutely necessary to restore the integrity of the system that's been completely compromised. This CDL fraud crisis perfectly illustrates a bigger problem we've been talking about for years. What happens when government systems prioritize speed and convenience over safety and integrity? Under the previous administration, under Joey B., the attitude was process as many applications as possible and ask questions later. The result? Fake beards at the DMV, cash bribes in gold envelopes, and unqualified drivers operating 80,000-pound vehicles on roads where families drive.
If we have a situation where people aren't getting tested or not getting tested properly, we don't know if they're a safe driver.
The Washington State investigator nails it. The bottom line, when you compromise testing standards, when you allow corruption in licensing systems, when you prioritize political correctness over public safety, people die. Families get destroyed by accidents that never should have happened. The Trump administration's response is exactly what leadership looks like. When you discover systematic fraud, you don't just prosecute the individual cases. You fix the entire system, even if it's disrupted, even if it's inconvenient, even if people complain about it. America, the Jamie Middleton case with the fake beards and acrylic nails might seem funny, which it is obviously, but it represents something deadly serious. When government employees become the criminals, when licensing systems become fraud schemes, when 80% of drivers can't pass legitimate tests, we have a public safety crisis. The 7 people indicted in the Long Island scheme are facing up to 7 years in prison, and the Washington State CDL school lost its license. Over 110 fraudulent drivers had their credentials canceled, and now the entire system is being audited to root out the corruption. This is what accountability looks like. This is what happens when you have leadership that cares more about public safety than political optics. Yes, it's disruptive. Yes, legitimate drivers are caught up in the process. But the alternative is continuing to let unqualified people drive massive trucks on the roads where families travel. The fake beard scheme is over and the cash bribe operation is shut down. The systematic fraud is being exposed. And for the first time in years, we have confidence that commercial drivers actually know how to operate vehicles safely. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.